to order the December 8th, 2025 meeting of the Board of School Trustees of Zionsville Community Schools, recognizing that we have a quorum of 4 board members. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will pause for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. First on our agenda this evening is public comments. Has anyone signed up to speak? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, we will move on to the superintendent's report.
Good evening, board members, members of the public. We're really excited tonight. We have some special guests in the room, and I would like to invite forward our Zionsville Community High School Marching Band Director, Tom Landrum, and some very special students who are joining us tonight. They have been ultra busy, and one event after the other. We were very excited to celebrate them last week with our Flight of Champions event at Zionsville Community High School, but this evening we're glad to have them joining us tonight for a bit of recognition. So, Mr. Landrum, I'd like to turn it over to you to share a few words about this outstanding group of young people.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting us. And we have a few more. I invited all of our seniors in the marching band, and many of them were able to be here tonight, so thankful for that. We had 107 students in the Marching Eagles. We have 17 staff members, including me, 17 staff members, and it takes everybody to make things really function. That does not include our music writer and our drill writer. Some highlights of the season. Morley over there is holding our recognition, our honors from state prelims. This was early October down at Whiteland High School. And each of the little ribbons and medallions mean that we earned scores to be with distinction in music and in visual and in effect. And that was a really big accomplishment for our marching band. And then 2 weeks later, as you can see with Sebastian there, we won the state championship out of all of the scholastic class marching bands. And extremely proud of the hard work of all the students and all the staff. While I've got the microphone, I want to make some thank yous. By the way, that large trophy was presented to us after we performed at Lucas Oil Stadium then, which was another 2 weeks later, November 8th. Our very own Mrs. McDaniel was there to enjoy that day, battling through the traffic because of the monumental marathon, literally around Lucas Oil Stadium. The students got to drink milk as if they had won the Indy 500. That's a tradition with the marching bands here in Indiana. And then most of our marching band recently was just on a trip to New York City and Philadelphia, and represented the community in the Philadelphia Thanksgiving Parade. So we've been quite busy, and I think now we can finally close the book on this year's marching band season. However, we have just started indoor percussion and winter guard and basketball band, and all kinds of things are still going on. I also would like to thank, we have one in the back who was the transportation, I think, for one of the students. Our parent volunteers are extremely involved and helpful, and we would be a mess just in so many ways without all the parent volunteers. The Zionsville Band Boosters are a tremendous support for all the entire band program, obviously. I wanted to mention the bus drivers. For most of our trips, we had the same 4 bus drivers, and they know exactly what to do, and they're wonderful. They go far beyond just driving the bus, and I just wanted to mention them. Would like to thank the school board and the school corporation for the decision to purchase that semi-trailer, and the smaller trailers. We're really putting those to good use. And it's awesome to see coming down the road and to see in the parking lot with the other big trucks and There's Zionsville right there. And I would like to thank all of our administrators at the high school, especially Karen McDaniel, for the leadership and the support of all the music programs that we have. There's a couple students behind me that are going to say just a few words, if you don't mind, if it's okay. All right, these are our two senior drum majors, Zainab Isau and Oliver Jarrett.
Hi, my name is Zainab, as Mr. Landrum just introduced me. I'm really happy to be here and speak for the band. It was a really great season. A lot of things happened, and the outcome was really great. And this activity that we're all a part of is just so special to all of us. It's a great way for all of us to connect, like just besides like working on like playing our instruments and marching and whatnot. It's a great place where we've all like become friends with each other. We've all built these bonds. We've all found something special to us within the band, whether it's literally playing our marching music or like playing our music, or just hanging out with our friends really, and having those connections. And it's sorry, it's just been a really great experience this season and all the seasons I've been in, and I'm really grateful for it, just to like say. And I'm grateful that I got to have this last season with all the people up here, and also all the other seniors and all the other people that aren't here with us. And yeah, I'm really glad to be here.
My name is Oliver Jarrett. I'm a drum major for 3, just like my friend Zion back here. I can say that I've been working towards this for the past 4 years of my life with these amazing people, and I see marching band and this activity as a way for people to grow, to become better than they were when they joined. I remember when I was a young freshman, I was certainly an outcast, but marching band gave me a community, a place where I could be welcomed, and a place where I could grow, be challenged, and overcome. And that's exactly what I've done. As the next year I went on to be a drum major and lead the band for 3 years. And it has not only changed my high school experience for the better, but my life as I go into music education next year as a major.
Students, we are so pleased that you took time to be here tonight just for this brief recognition. We know it would be incredibly challenging to fit the entire marching band, but I can't think of better representatives to be in this room with us tonight. You're sharing your time tonight, but we know how much time you have spent, hours upon hours upon hours in the summer, on the weekends, all the time, in season and out of season, to prepare and to represent our community. And you have done so well with just combining together, as you both mentioned, that collaboration that you have together, and partnership and supportive nature of one another. We're just really proud of all that you've accomplished, and we know that the skills that you have gained through marching band and through all of your experiences at Zionsville Community High School, there's still a lot of senior year left to go, but we know once you walk across that stage at the end of the school year, there are so many opportunities awaiting for you, and these experiences will have set you up for so much future success. We're very proud of you, and we just want to thank you for being here tonight. And students, we know that you might find this to be incredibly interesting this evening. You're welcome to stay, but we know you may have other obligations tonight. You're also welcome to depart the meeting. Thank you so much for coming this evening. Talking about their success certainly is something that brings a lot of joy. There's many ways that we can measure success throughout the school year, and I did want to invite Mrs. Devereaux to discuss with us tonight a little bit of change in how the state is measuring success and measuring how well our students are performing with some of the new checkpoint process that is in place. So without further ado, Assistant Superintendent Chris Devereaux is going to share a little bit about this change that's happening, not just for Zionsville Community Schools, but for all schools across the state this year. Chris, thank you.
Thank you. I can't believe you didn't have me go before and had to follow all these amazing students. But I'm coming tonight just to talk to you a little bit about iLearn checkpoints. As you know, we've had iLearn as a state required testing for years. This year, they have changed and added checkpoints. And so to talk about a little bit of that, I just wanted to remind you, first of all, kind of what I call the evolution of iLearn. This goes back to 2014, even though I could have gone back further. But you can see almost every single school year, we have had some sort of change with iLearn, whether that was a new test or academic standards being changed or how the actual test was being taken. For this school year, you'll see at the very bottom in red, all schools are now going to complete checkpoints, which I'm going to go over with you, and the summative tests that we take in the spring, in April and May time, will be changed again. So I just wanted to point out that this is another change to our state required assessment. The iLearn this year has 3 checkpoints, and a redesigned summative assessment. The checkpoints cover ELA and mathematics. They have around 20 to 25 questions for each checkpoint. So ELA has 20 to 25 questions for checkpoint 1. Math has 20 to 25 questions for checkpoint 1 as well. And that's the same for checkpoint 2 and 3. Each checkpoint assesses different standards. So the checkpoints don't build on each other, where you would say, oh, I'm going to see how you did in checkpoint 1, and you're going to be assessed on the same standards for checkpoint 2. That is not how it is. Checkpoint 1 has a set of substandards. Checkpoint 2 has a different set of substandards. Checkpoint 3 has a different set of substandards before we get to the summative. We gave checkpoint 1 back in October, and checkpoint 2 will happen right after winter break for us. Checkpoint 3 will happen in March before we leave for spring break, and then when we get back from spring break is when the summative will happen. That's the traditional summative time frame that we've done in the past. I want to explain and talk a little bit about scope and sequence and make sure we're all talking the same language. The scope defines what students will learn. The sequence is the order in which they will learn those standards and skills. So we've been asked a lot about what scope and sequence does Zionsville use if checkpoint 1 has a small set of standards and checkpoint 2 has different standards. And so I just wanted to remind everyone that for us, our math and language arts curricula are research-based. That means that not only are the instructional materials research-based, so is the scope and sequence. It's very intentional about the order in which things are taught to build on each other and spiral back to make sure that kids by the end of the school year have really developed mastery over the skills. We are going to view checkpoints for us as kind of just dipsticks. So when kids took checkpoint 1, they may have been explicitly taught some of the standards that the state chose to include in checkpoint 1. If they did, if they've already been taught those standards, then we're going to be able to look at that as another data point of have kids learned that skill or standard or knowledge that we've explicitly taught. If we haven't taught it yet because our research-based scope and sequence says it's not time to teach that skill yet, then we're going to look at it as a pre-assessment. What do our students know prior to actually getting explicitly taught that skill or standard? So that's how we're viewing checkpoints. All students are going to receive an individual student report. I want to point out a few things about the individual student reports. This is the first year that everyone in the state will have access to these. And I want to point out a few things because I believe some of this could be a little bit misleading at first glance for a parent. And so I'm going to talk about our messaging to parents, but I wanted to point out a few things here. On the opening of this front page of the student report, I have highlighted, that's not the state, I actually did this, I highlighted the part right there because it says, iLearn is a through-year assessment system that checks your students' learning after they receive instruction. Well, as I just said, That may be true for some of the standards, and that may be true for some districts. For us, again, we're following our research-based scope and sequence, so students haven't necessarily learned these specific standards that the state has decided to have on these checkpoints. It also mentions again that they've already learned this in class, and that these do not reflect student growth. It's one of the reasons why our district, we chose to continue with NWEA testing as we have done for years. It is a nationally normed test that shows growth over time, and it helps inform our instruction. So that is why we continue with NWEA. We never want to over-test students, but we want to make sure we have really accurate information to help our teachers meet student needs. As you scroll down in the student report, another thing I want to point out that I think could be confusing to parents is for this student, you'll see where it says reading foundations, and I highlighted, it says the student inconsistently demonstrated having proficiency in reading foundations. When you go down further on this report, on that table and that graph below, it actually shows you the percentage of questions a student answered correctly within the level. So within the level of below questions, they were given below proficiency questions, the student answered 56% of those correctly. When students were given the approaching proficiency questions, they answered 100% of those correctly. I don't believe that that's inconsistently demonstrating skills in reading foundations if they answered 100% of the approaching questions correctly. So I want to make sure that parents understand. I think it could be a little confusing of what this graph is showing. Another part of the individual student report is this chart. And I know when I first looked at it, I saw a lot of red and thought, oh no, what does this mean that this child really did not do well on all of these areas? Actually, the red means, the red is showing you what level the question was. So if the question was a below proficiency question, it is coded in red. Approaching proficiency questions are coded in yellow. In the far right column is how the student actually performed. If they have a check mark, they answered it correctly. If they have an X, they answered it incorrectly. So when you look at this student, you can see that out of all of these, they actually only answered 2 questions incorrectly. But when you look at the color coding, it can seem like they answered a lot incorrectly. It's kind of that, red pen marking on your essay back in the old days, and you think, oh, I didn't do well on this. So that's another thing that I think can be confusing for parents when they just very first look at this as a visual. When we looked at NWA percentiles and checkpoint 1 data that we received from the state, we went ahead and pulled, I'm going to give you an example here. Let's look at grade 3. This is for ELA checkpoint 1. When you go across, if you go to that second column, checkpoint 1 approaching proficiency, that's 73. What this means is any 3rd grader who on checkpoint 1 was deemed approaching proficiency for that test, checkpoint 1, when we took those students and looked at their fall NWEA scores, because they took NWEA in August, what we found is that all of those students who the state says are approaching proficiency, on average, they are actually in the 73rd percentile nationally for ELA. Remember, 50th percentile is average, and that means you're at the grade level. So our 3rd graders are in the 73rd percentile nationally, well above the national norm. But on checkpoint 1, the state is telling us on average they are approaching proficiency. We did not think that that data aligned, which is why, again, we always use multiple data points. Because on any given day, again, students can perform well or not, depending on what happened that day or how the test was structured. This is why we use multiple data points. When you look at that 3rd column of checkpoint 1 at proficiency, checkpoint 1 is telling us that they believe that our students are at grade level for those standards. The numbers, 84, 80, 80, 77, 78, 80, are the average NWEA percentiles for English language arts. So our students for third grade are in the 84th percentile nationally. But I Learn Checkpoint 1 says they are just at grade level proficiency. So we went ahead and looked at math. Math, same thing. When you start to look at math, if you go down to grade 7 as an example, grade 7 in column 2, checkpoint 1 showed that we had students who were approaching proficiency. When we pulled all of our grade 7 approaching proficiency math students, their average NWEA percentile was in the 81st percentile nationally. I would say the 81st percentile nationally is well above grade level standards and not approaching grade level standards. When you look at the third column of at proficiency, which the checkpoint is saying that these students are at grade level for math, those numbers there, 82, 86, 82, 91, 92, 86, are the percentiles nationally that our students averaged. Again, I would say 92nd percentile for our 7th graders is not at proficiency. I would say that's well above grade level proficiency. So I want to point that out because I think when our parents get scores, and if I got my child's score and I see that on this one checkpoint of standards that my child may not have even had explicit instruction in yet, and they are below or approaching proficiency, I may be concerned. What we want to make sure our parents know is that we don't believe one data point ever tells the full story of a student's learning, ever. NWE doesn't do that either. What we do is look at multiple data points. That's nationally normed data points, that's classroom data points, that is the state data points. We look at a full scope of data points to determine if a student needs help or extension in their learning journey. If a teacher is concerned about a student's development of skills or growth, they will reach out to the parent to partner to talk about what things we can put into place, or what extensions this child needs to be pushed further. We never use just one, and we definitely don't want to use just one data point that is so counter to other data points we have as well. So we want to make sure parents rest assured that we are watching all the data points and making sure that their child is learning the skills and knowledge needed. To help, hopefully, explain all of that and have people understand it, well, I went ahead and drafted with the help of a lot of people, so I want to thank everyone for all of their input. Our staff tomorrow is going to get an email from me that shares some of this information along with a copy of the parent messaging that will go out on Wednesday. So all of our parents will get an information about the individual student reports and the iLearn checkpoints, information on how to access their child's information, along with an FAQ from Zionsville that explains a lot of the things that I talked about today. So that is what I wanted to let you know, and to make sure if you had any questions yourself about this, happy to answer it. We will continue to watch the checkpoint data as it comes about. Again, we're going to do checkpoint 2 after winter break. We'll get that data in, and we'll do the same kind of data pull and dig. I want to thank Generation Testing Coordinator. She has been going in and digging into the data and comparing it to all the other data we have so that we can use it in the best way to inform our instruction for kids. Happy to answer any questions.
So how well historically has the previous iteration of iLearn mapped onto NWEA?
In the past, we actually have, I'm going to reverse it. We've used NWEA as a how will students do. They've created that, and it's been pretty accurate about how students will do on the summative. Now, I want to say, as you saw on that first slide I gave you, the summative and iLearn has changed almost every single year. So the accuracy of NWEA, I will say, is good. Is it perfect? No, but I will say that's because things have changed every single year.
So that was my question. This is my comment. So you don't have to address this. My comment is a non-cynical person would say the checkpoints haven't been normed very well yet. A cynical person might say this does an excellent job of sort of painting that picture that public education is failing students in Indiana. You don't have to comment on that. That's my comment, but You'll have to decide at home if you're cynical or not cynical. I'm cynical. Sorry, any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. A few other quick highlights as we round out the superintendent's report. Just as a reminder, our Community Foundation of Boone County has opened up applications for scholarships for the class of 2026. And so those are available now through early February 4th at noon. So an important reminder, I know that the high school family newsletter has included those details. Information is available to all of our senior students, but certainly we want to spread the word that there's a lot of opportunity available in the community for various scholarships for many different experiences that our students might seek upon graduation. Also wanted to highlight that through generous contributions of many throughout the community, we do have free sack lunch kits that are available throughout winter break. These are available at many different locations throughout the community, and we encourage families to seek this support, and certainly there's other opportunities for support over the winter break or any other point in time. Many of these resources have been recently shared by our principals in the individual school newsletters, but again, these lunches are available to all students as long as they are residents in Boone County. There's no registration required, just having to show proof of residency or photo identification to indicate that you are a resident in Boone County. If you'd like to take advantage, everyone is welcome. And as we lead into winter break and then return in January, we're excited to report all of our 8th grade families at both Zionsville Middle and Zionsville West have received the save the date and invitation to attend the academic transition night at Zionsville Community High School. Great opportunity for families and students to come to the campus, have a guided tour, learn about all the various different programming, some of the new adjustments to the high school diploma, as well as the block schedule that will be in place next year. So really excited to welcome all of our middle school 8th grade families in for that night. And that concludes my report this evening.
Any questions or other discussion? Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there any questions or discussion about the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda, including minutes of previous meetings, personnel, special requests, which may include overnight and out-of-state field trips, acceptance of donations, disposal of surplus equipment, ECA and security equipment purchases, contract renewals, non-renewals, and attorney-vetted actions, and also the monthly financial report with claims in the amount of $11,387,033.94 and payroll in the amount of $5,721,258.99.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have no old business items. Oh, donations. I gotta set it out.
The Trailside Elementary PTO donated $5,223.72 for audio and visual equipment. Jackie Simmons at the high school donated $1,000 to the girls' soccer program. The National Honor Society donated $1,000 to the ZCS food security program. The Zionsville Optimist Club donated $1,000 to the Model UN travel expenses and financial assistance. And finally, the ZCS Building Corporation donated 33.2 acres of land at 5350 South 650 East Main Street across from BMB for future use. Thank you for the donations.
Thank you. We have no old business items to consider, so moving on to new business items. 6A, middle school program of study adjustment.
Thank you. I'm just going to be on the agenda a lot this evening. I want to bring to you a recommendation for a course adjustment to middle school studies. As you know, during the 2024 legislative session, new graduation requirements were passed. The requirement of computer science course was one of the changes in that legislative session. Right now at ZCHS, along with other districts, the course Computing Foundations for a Digital Age is used to meet that course requirement for graduation. The secondary leaders and district leaders, we all met to talk about the law, the course requirements, the graduation, accountability, and how to best meet all the needs of our students. And one of the things that we talked about is the fact that Computing Foundations for a Digital Age, those standards and focus areas of that course actually have really great, strong foundational skills that would really serve our 8th graders well before they went into high school. One of the things that I love about the standards in that course is about being critical thinkers with us around AI and what to trust and what not to trust and how to be a good judge of that. We want to make sure that our middle school students continue to have choice in their schedule. As you know, right now, outside of their, the core academics of English and math and social studies and science, our kids get an opportunity to music. We just saw a great example of kids who've been in the music program and visual arts and Project Lead the Way. We have great opportunities at the middle school level. We never wanted to take away any opportunities for kids that may find a passion or something that they really loved. So we wanted to think about how can we have the Computing Foundations for a Digital Age course be offered to our 8th graders because we think it's at an age-appropriate level with these foundational skills and still at the same time offer a lot of choice for our kids. The state allows us to combine courses. An example of that is some high schools offer financial literacy and an economics course as one course. So they teach 2 different courses but in the same period and give credit though for both courses. So looking at that as a possible model, we started looking at 8th grade science. 8th grade science already has computer science standards integrated into 8th grade science. And then when we pulled the computer science high school graduation course and looked at those standards, they align well with our 8th grade science. An example of this could be when kids do a lab and then they want to create a graph about the data from their lab. Creating that graph is a computer science standard. And so it enhances the learning and also is a way to demonstrate what they've learned. I met with 8th grade science teachers to talk about the fact that I wanted to bring to you tonight a recommendation to integrate this high school Computer Foundations for a Digital Age course into our 8th grade science course. And what we talked about with the 8th grade science teachers was that we wanted to make things clear. So a student enrolled in an 8th grade science course, I'm just going to say period 1, in Power School, they would have their 8th grade science period 1 course listed with those standards, because we do standards-based reporting at the middle level. They would also in Power School have a separate course for period 1 called Computing Foundations for a Digital Age. During class, over the course of an entire year, not a short amount of time, but over the entire year, as we incorporate and we teach these skills and standards for the computer science course, I'll go back to my example of the lab and the graph. The lab and all of that analysis that was done are tied directly to 8th grade science standards. That assignment and that assessment would be entered into their 8th grade science Power School, so they would know how they were doing with that. When we got to the actual making of the graph of the data, that's a computer science standard, that piece of it would be entered as a separate grade into the computer science course so that it was very clear what they did well with 8th grade science standards and what they're doing well in the computer science standards. That also makes it clean to roll up into a 1 credit high school grade on the high school transcript so that when they go into high school, then they have that as a 1 credit course. My recommendation to you is that we go ahead and merge this for next school year, the 26-27 school year. If you approve this tonight, I have reached out to Next Tech. They are a recommended company, a non-for-profit. They are recommended by the IDOE to partner with. They work with schools K through 12 to work on computer science standards and integrating that learning and skill development with students. And they said they would love to partner with us if approved tonight and work with our leaders and our 8th grade teachers over the course of the entire second semester in order to make sure that our scope and sequence and the 8th grade science standards and these computer science standards work well together so that our kids walk out with really great learning and skills before they head off to ZCHS. So that is what I'm bringing to you tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So this would start next year. Our current 8th graders, though, will have to have this for their graduate, so how are we going to accommodate that?
So fortunately, the high school will continue to offer computer science, this course that we've always offered at the high school, and we will continue to offer that, to your point, Mike. Obviously, we're going to have our current high schoolers who are under the new graduation requirements, our current 8th graders, and we'll always have move-ins who haven't had an opportunity to have that course as well, so we'll make sure that that opportunity is available at the high school level.
Any other questions? Discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion on item 6A.
I move to approve the course adjustment to the middle school program of studies as described starting the 2026-2027.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item on the agenda is 6B, high school instructional materials adoptions. You're still going.
I'm still going. I'm still going. As you know, every year we look at the state standards, graduation requirements, all of those things, and our current instructional materials to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students. Our teachers in these and our math department, specifically for honors geometry course, looked at materials. We have a lot of outdated materials that don't necessarily meet the upcoming requirements with standards. And so they looked at a variety of publishers, some that were recommended from the state as well, evaluated those, and then I'm bringing forward to you all the recommendations. You'll notice some of them will look familiar because they're just different editions of what we currently use. Several of them, of course, are required or recommended from AP as well to make those AP exams. Happy to answer any questions, but these are the recommendations I'm bringing forward to you. If approved, we would place this order here in the next month so that we can get materials in for teachers to be able to see any professional development that may be needed, and we would start utilizing them in August of '26.
Any questions or discussion?
Just so I know, the reason it says approximate cost is the licensing is like based on enrollment. We're estimating enrollment in those schools. Okay.
Yep, correct. I gave you approximate based on current enrollment, but every year, as you know, I love the fact that our kids get to pick what they want to take, and so that enrollment could go up or down.
Is that why the econ materials are so much more? So there's just that many more kids, or is it the material itself more expensive? Seems
Both.
like that line or both.
It's both. And when you get into AP coursework, the materials are significantly more expensive than non-AP coursework. And some of the areas like econ, a lot of our kids take, and then of course, econ, for some reason, those materials seem to be more, and they have traditionally been that as well over the course of the years that we've adopted.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion?
I move to approve the adoption of instructional materials as presented and to authorize the superintendent and/or her designee to sign all contracts and/or agreements to authorize the purchase of the listed adoption materials.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's 4-0. Moving down the agenda, we are up to 6C, ZCHS photography consideration.
Thank you, Board. I recall that earlier this year, you granted us permission to advertise for high school photography service proposals. We did that, and in accordance with policy and statute, reviewed those proposals in mid-November, and we had sealed bids from 6 providers. We opened those, recorded and scored them. We have tabulated those, and we do have a recommendation for you tonight. We would recommend entering into a 5-year agreement with the current provider with Correct Photography here in the Zionsville to begin in the 2026-27 school year. We'll note that the agreement includes no direct cost to ZCS, but based upon that request for proposals document and our scoring, it contains the combination of the best financial benefit to ZCHS, quality of photography products, and cost to families, with the added benefit that Correct Photography is here at Zionsville Company. The current agreement, it runs to the end of the current school year, so we do need a new agreement for next school year, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm glad that Ms. McDaniel's here, and I'm grateful for her and her team and their time spent evaluating these number of proposals. Receive a lot of information, go through them in a lot of time, and a lot of effort is really put into making a good decision here to come to a recommendation for you this evening. So again, happy to answer any questions you may have.
I think the board submitted a number of questions before the meeting about this. I would just say that I think this is probably something I hear more about from folks in the community than even our wonderful island presentation and discussion, which is interesting, but I guess I would just encourage the high school to consider flexibility or making sure that CRIPE is flexible for us and our needs and meeting the needs across the various groups, and hopefully that's a good partnership.
Indeed, and that was one element that I felt like stood out in their presentation, in the descriptions of their proposal. There's a lot of room for feedback and for flexibility and for scheduling that I'm not sure was always, that families may now have been aware of, or maybe was communicated effectively in the past. Mrs. McDaniel also reports that her experience in speaking with the lead there who's worked with us these last number of years has been extremely positive. Some very specific situations with families who had experiences that maybe were not the most positive the moment that she took it to them, and their lead who works with us, things were handled with a positive outcome. And so we've been grateful to see that play out in problem solving and in beneficial resolution with them as an incumbent. That's one of the difficult situations of knowing the bad experiences that may happen with someone that you work with, and then there's some unknowns with others. So all we can be is grateful, I think, that from our perspective, recommending to you that in those times when there have been something less than positive, that they've worked with our experience in Mrs. McDaniel's, that they've worked with us to resolve them, and thus far have resolved them well.
I'm curious about the 5-year contract. How do we settle? I know we've done that before, but that doesn't mean we always need to do it again.
Sure.
And then what are the options post 5 years in the language or what we had in RFP?
Yeah, so we asked for a 5-year agreement from multiple year agreements with extension options, and they give us lots of different options from which to select. One reason to seek a longer agreement is, frankly, this is a long process. It takes a lot of time. We don't want to do this every year. And in particular with the high school, because it requires so much advanced planning, because of that senior component that requires months and so many unique situations for them, graduation involvement, all of that, we really didn't want to come back and do this again too soon. There are often, as is often the case with a number of the respondents, there are incentives in that benefit to the high school for a longer term agreement as well. And we felt like, given those combined factors, that this was a good spot for us to be in. And then we could decide to continue at the end of this agreement, or we could seek another request for proposal and seek another round. We have every option available to us at that point.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, is there a motion?
Move to authorize the leadership team to enter into an agreement for ZCHS photography services with CRIPE Photography as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item 6D, request to purchase an uninterruptible power supply.
Good evening, board members. I'm here tonight to request permission to purchase a piece of equipment that will keep all of our servers safe. Sitting right in front of our main server bank is a Liebherr UPS system. It's an inline system that has two functions. It has some battery backup, but it also cleans all of the power that goes into our servers. Our servers are very finicky and they like clean, consistent power, and this does that. We've had the current one in there, we believe, for 13 years. It's been there the entire time I've been here. And it's worked well for us, but they are no longer offering a 24/7 emergency maintenance package on it because it is out of date. So we need to get a new one, and it exceeded the $50,000 threshold for us. So we can buy direct from Liebherr for $45,000, and then there is a $17,000 or $17,490 installation fee for an engineering group that comes with that as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Does this next contract also, is that also 24/7?
Yeah, that's why we have to get it, so we have that. We don't want to be sitting ducks waiting for power outage.
And then, is that, I mean, is it typical, like a 10 to 15 year?
Yeah, I think we got a really great run on ours. I don't think that's actually, usually the standard is 6 to 7, I think,
Okay.
and we've just had a good run with ours, and we would keep it if the maintenance package was still available, but it's not.
Do we really use computers or
We do okay with that. If we want to log into anything or have access to information, we kind of need this.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, is there a motion?
I move to accept the recommendation of the technology department to purchase a replacement of our current Veritiv Liebherr UPS as presented.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Lane, is Mr. Lane going to stay with us or for item 6E?
Actually, I'm going to introduce the next item, and it is involving Mr. Layton. So board members, you may recall that annually you have the opportunity to appoint an individual to the Zionsville Board of Parks and Recreation to serve on a 1-year term as allowable by law. Our current appointee has served a maximum of 4 1-year terms, and so while she has enjoyed that opportunity, it is now time to seek her replacement. Mr. Layton mentioned how long he's been in the district, but as a resident of Zionsville and also an educator and a leader in our community, the parks is an area of passion of his, and we believe that his service as your appointment to this board would bring benefit to the larger Zionsville community. With his background, certainly in the sciences, but also in leadership as a master gardener and many other skill sets that he has. We wanted to bring this to your attention tonight so you could consider your future appointment for the Parks Board.
I, for one, am grateful that you're willing to do that and represent us, and I think you'll be great. Any questions?
Any questions? I'm excited to have Dan in that role. I want to thank Chris Barksdale for doing that for the last 4 years. I know she's done a great job in that role as well.
Is there a motion?
I move to appoint Dan Layton to the Parks Board for a 1-year term as per our board's opportunity to do so under IC-36-125-4-44 and IC-36-10-3.
Second. The motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anything else for the good of the order? Well, that concludes our agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you.